Well, today is August the 8th, 3 days into this project, and haven't been doing much in terms of actually walking, getting my body moving, because a lot of just physical pain in my feet, the actual soles of my feet. I have problems with dry skin on my feet, and it's starting to crack, and it's extremely painful to walk these days. Not really anything I can fix in a hurry. I've taken some steps to try to put a stop to it, but it's going to take a little time. In the meantime, I'm trying to figure out what to do about my job search. I have an idea in my head about throwing all my energies in a different direction and doing some fundraising for some charities that I know, and through that activity just hoping and putting it in God's hands that some sort of employment will come out of the contacts I make that way. I'm trying to just strip myself of any concerns or anxiety over money, but it's not an easy thing to do. We haven't had a lot of money come into this house for a while, and now I'm the one without a job, and I need to. I do need to produce something, but I'm not sure exactly what the best way to do that is. Looking for a job in the traditional manner keeps yielding commission-only jobs that don't end up actually paying me anything. So, I'm concerned. I have worries about things like this, but as I say, I'm trying to not worry and finding that balance of not being worried, but still being responsible as a husband and as a father is a difficult tightrope to walk. In other news, today is the feast of St. Dominic. I don't have tremendous devotion to St. Dominic. He was a religious founder back in the 12th century. He is most famous among Catholics for being the man who invented, or to whom was revealed, depending on what story you want to believe, the rosary that's used most common in the Catholic Church. There are many rosaries and series of prayers that can be used, but the one that Catholics are most familiar with, the one that's spoken of most highly, is the Dominican rosary, the one given by St. Dominic. And it's really a good foundation point for prayer life. It's a very meditative prayer. People don't realize that. People think it's people think of it as a drudgery. It's not. When the rosary is said well, it absolutely transcends the physical motions and the vocal prayers that are said, and it becomes a true meditation and a lifting of the heart in a way that really is hard to compare to any other. So when the clock turned over to midnight this morning, I said my rosary. First one I've said in a long time, and it felt good. It's prayer that I used to say quite often, but as my life has gotten busier and busier, I've found it less common for me to say that prayer. I'm going to try to I'll make that my goal for the rest of this week, is to say the rosary more often. I don't want to make long-term goals. I have a long-term goal, which is the pilgrimage that I'm trying to make. I don't want to make too many long-term goals, or make too many, heap too many specific expectations on myself during this journey, because that's when I break down. I tell myself, oh, I'll say a rosary, every day for the next month, and then I don't, and I say, well, I screwed that up. Why bother? It's a little sabotage that I do with myself, and so I'm not going to set myself up. I'm not going to make demanding promises of myself. I'm going to make small promises. It's Wednesday. I'll say a rosary. I said a rosary today, and I'll say a rosary tomorrow and Friday, and probably Saturday and Sunday as well. And I'll make that the extent of my promise to myself. That's one I can keep. I think that's what I do that probably keeps me the most discouraged in life, is I don't set small goals. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a big thinker. I like it that way. And a lot of people love that aspect about me. But I set enormous goals, and then I don't know how to begin. I don't know the steps to take to get there. That's why this goal that I've set, although it's a big goal, I want to make a pilgrimage, a 520-mile walk. It's basically walking 20 miles a day. That's not a big goal. If I were pressed to do it now for some emergency reason, I could probably walk 20 miles today, even in the health I'm in. I would certainly feel it tomorrow, and I probably would not be able to get out of bed for the next 2 days if I did, but I have it in me today to do that. And that's why it doesn't seem like such an arduous task to train my body to be able to do that repetitively. Because that's my goal, is I'll walk 20 miles a day for, how many days would that be? 26 days would get me from Zaragoza to Santiago. Still trying to debate that opening point. The Basilica in Zaragoza does have an ancient significance, but I may find a different starting point. The Basilica of La Salette in the Pyrenees Mountains seems like a good one. There are a few other points that might be good places to start. So I'm going to have to debate that. I'm going to do some research on traditional routes. Obviously, the one of the ancient starting points is the Basilica of Notre Dame in Paris. That's a much longer walk. That's almost a 1,000-mile walk. And it doesn't have the spiritual significance to me of Saragossa. In fact, the Basilica of Notre Dame is not nearly as old as the church in Saragossa, which is a funny thing to say, but it's true. The altar and the sanctuary in Saragossa dates almost to the time of the apostles themselves, and that's one of the things that attracts me to it. So I have a lot of thinking to do, a lot of decision making on that angle. It's a minor thing, really, where I start. The ending point at Santiago, the ending point at the tomb of an apostle, that's the real goal here. I don't practice a form of Christianity that's been around for a couple hundred years. I'm not a Baptist. I'm not a Pentecostal. I'm not even an Anglican anymore. I practice the faith of the apostles. And it is with that knowledge that pilgrims, for 12 centuries or more, have been making this journey. As long as it's been safe to make, which is, after the Moorish invasion of Spain was deflected, pilgrims have been making this journey. And it's one of the recognized heritage sites by UNESCO. And the actual church in Santiago is 1,000 years old. And that's something that I can't even think of. I live in a country that was only discovered a little over 500 years ago. I've never been in a building more than 250 years old. To think about this church, this altar, that's 1,000 years old. And that's only half the age of my faith. It's amazing to think that I'm plugged into a continuum that is so broad, that's so timeless, and will continue on, until the end of time. We're taught in our catechism, and I believe that, because if the church were going to fail, it's had plenty of chances. And it is that tie-in to the Holy Spirit that came down on the apostles at Pentecost that makes us who we are. It's that direct line of succession from the apostles that makes us a divine organism rather than a human institution. And that is the reason behind visiting the tomb of an apostle. Santiago, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is the Spanish for St. James. This is James the Greater, he's been called. James, the son of Zebedee, the brother of St. John. That is who we believe is buried in the sarcophagus at Santiago de Compostela. And it's really something to contemplate, that I'm united to this man through direct succession, through direct unity, through the centuries. When I receive the Eucharist, I receive the same gift that he received at the Last Supper. It's almost beyond comprehension. And when I get there, I won't be able to articulate this. I've spent 14 and a half minutes now discussing this with you. But in that moment, this is all going to be just one thought. One flash of an idea through my head. That's how my faith usually presents itself. I'm not a systematic theologian. I experience things in moments, in flashes. And I'm wondering what kind of a flash is going to come over me kneeling at that tomb. I'm looking forward to finding out. Anyway, that's my rant for today. Happy Feast of St. Dominic to all of you. Technically, it's a memorial of St. Dominic. It's not a feast. These all get into technicalities of which day overrides which day on the calendar if they happen to overlap. This is a feast, or not. This is a memorial of a saint, and one of our more well-known saints, and the one who brought us the rosary. So, if you are Catholic, go ahead and pick up that rosary and give it a shot. Blow the dust off it, and you'll remember how to do it. And just enjoy the day, and enjoy the peace that comes from being a child of God and a part of this great chain that goes back to the apostles.